Well, just look who popped by. Hello, Brandon.
Oh, I can't believe I'm actually on Natasha Makes. What are you going to make for me today, Natasha?
Well, I don't know. You are in pole position. You're the man in control today.
Oh dear.
So for everybody who is watching this morning, good morning. This is a pre-recorded show. It was the only way that we could do it and do it safely and at a distance because we live in a funny old world right now.
Oh, I want to hug you so
I
much.
know. Oh, it's a killer, isn't it, for people?
Yeah.
No pun intended, but for people that are huggy people. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
but so lovely to see your face.
Oh, listen, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me on the show.
Oh,
I feel like a croupier in Las Vegas with all these jazzy colours, and we've kind of mocked up a little bit of a stage set behind.
I mean, Vegas is colourful, but I think you guys do that hands down.
Oh dear.
So Brandon, this is an interview I have wanted to do for so long. And I kind of pictured it being in comfy chairs with a cup of coffee, and instead it has to be at a distance and a bit funny. But we still have you here and we still get to chat. So this is absolutely lovely because 3 is the magic number, and I've interviewed Kaif and I've interviewed Philip Jacobs. But I've never had a proper interview.
It's because I'm not allowed out very often. They never know what I'm going to say.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. We get a chance to edit it, won't we? That's absolutely fine. Not that we will. So, Brandon Mably. For those who do not know you, what do you feel is your greatest achievement?
That's a big one.
Yeah.
My greatest achievement.
Going straight in with a biggie.
Do you know, I love a challenge, and so my greatest challenge, because one of my mottos is that life, I'm still learning. Life is never but learning as you go along, and so I'm kind of fearless in that sense, and my world is about putting together color arrangements. I'm not out to look at the awards, but I remember saying to myself when I was stepping out into out of the world, from education into the big wide world, I want to go to the top. What is the top? There is no top with me. Just keep going and learn by your mistakes. If I can make somebody I tell you what it gives me the amazing feel-good factor is when I've taken somebody in a workshop and I see the light bulb just suddenly turn on and they get it. Then I know that I've actually planted a seed and they're going to start growing into Jack and the Beanstalk. And to me, I think that's my biggest.
Now, you see, what I love about you is that you are an educator, and yet education for you, growing up, wasn't your favourite thing.
No, it wasn't. I didn't. I was told after I left school. When I was in school, I didn't do well, but and I was told afterwards because I had a level of dyslexia in school that wasn't told about.
Picked up, yeah.
But I'm of a mindset that you don't use that as an excuse.
No.
You use that as something to work with, and fortunately, being in walking the path that I've walked for the last 30 years with somebody who has embraced me for who I am and my cracks and faults and so forth, and never really what I felt put me down, and just boost me up by saying, have a go, try, learn by your mistakes, that being K facet, then it kind of empowered me to just pull my shoulders back and not look down, but look up. And I don't look down. I mean, this is part of the reason why I love travel, because I find that people from other cultures have so much to share and give you, and sometimes we look down a lot faster than we should really look up, and I don't look down.
You don't
very
look.
often.
You're never looking down.
No, but I don't.
You're up looking at the stars.
Yeah, and I'm too curious. I'm too curious a person. Also, it's not about me. It's about others. And
you are. I mean, a story that springs to mind was, and we won't go through chronologically or anything, but I do remember reading a story about you in India. This was when you and Kaif were just starting to get fabrics made in India, quilting fabrics made in India, and it was the stripes that first started.
In Andhra Pradesh.
And you came back in a Land Rover with the back of it filled with balloons for the kids. And if there is ever a story that just makes me think it couldn't be more Brandon if it tried, it is the idea of you trekking across India with a car full of balloons to make children smile.
Yeah, well, we were in a village, the village that we were working with down in the deepest depths of Tamil Nadu in India. Basically, Oxfam had asked us to, Kaif and myself, to go out to poverty-stricken areas in India to advise them on projects that could be more marketable in the West. And because colour is our muscle, we thought that we could give them some arrangements of working with colour and that they could make that happen. We were supposedly going to a leper village, and that wasn't a problem for us. If the charity asked us, then it would be okay. And if we could just, bless those people by give them a little bit of nudging to, do something more, then we would. And anyway, we were in this village. They suffered a tornado followed by a tidal wave, and it wiped out the village and all they had. And so they were pit loom weavers, whereas they'd sit with their feet in the pit and they'd weave up sari fabric. Anyway, this village was extraordinary because they just lived in stick huts. But I noticed there was, children running around like bunnies, and I'm a magnet to children. I also love balloons. So while Kaif started putting his thinking cap on, I said to the chief of the village, is there somewhere nearby? We were in the middle of nowhere. Is there anywhere nearby where I can buy balloons? And so we drove, maybe a good hour, and I bought whatever balloons up I could and blew them up as we were driving back, filling the back of this Land Rover. And the chief of the village was panicking because if we were left one child short of having a balloon, that was his concern.
Oh no.
I caused bedlam because, of course, when we drove into the village, the kids were really excited seeing this vehicle, but I was in the back underneath the balloons, so they were dancing in the back of the Jeep. It was and as we drove slowly up through the village, the trail of children running behind the Jeep trying, screaming and shouting.
They will remember that their whole lives. You know that, don't you? That will be something they will always remember.
It's shown a little bit of play and colour, and
Beautiful.
That's me. And so I didn't have a red nose, but yeah, that.
And for anybody that doesn't know, that village that didn't have electric, didn't have running water, they sat in pits and they wove. And actually there were long periods of time where they wouldn't be able to because the electric would cut out, or the little that they did, or it would rain and they couldn't do anything. Now has proper running water.
Yeah, they have electricity. Unfortunately, one of the sad things for us is that they brought in, the first thing that they bought for themselves was televisions. And to us, please. I hope they didn't go and buy a microwave. Goodness.
But the working conditions were massively improved, and that was a major thing. So they are now their lives are better off.
Yeah, they're self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've had to move the project to a bigger facility because they were doing our sampling, and it got them up and running.
Yeah.
But yeah. I hope, I'm addicted to the Real Marigold Hotel series.
Oh, yes.
Xander Rhodes is down there at the moment, who's a friend. And, I'm just been thinking, oh my gosh, they're just down the road from where we were in Tamil Nadu, which is down the southern part of India.
Yeah. So this is the thing. When you met Kaif Fassett, you weren't an artist necessarily. You weren't in this world at all. What were you actually doing?
Okay, when I left school, I studied catering and hotel management, and then when I quit there, I came to London, and I met up with a friend who was working down in Greece, and I said to him, "Oh, put an advert in the newspaper for me. Anybody wanting a private chef?" And I thought, never happened. Well, a couple of months later, my mom called. She was living in Wales, and now it's in London, and she said, "Brandon, there's a letter come through from a lady Myers. She's the ambassador's wife in Greece. They want to interview you to be their chef." And I thought, blinking heck, that guy put the advert in the newspaper.
He wrote up well about you, didn't he?
So before I knew it, I was on an airplane down to Greece, and I was the private cook to the British ambassador for a short period. And then I went to run a restaurant on the island of Paros.
Wow.
And that didn't turn out very well because the guy who owned the restaurant didn't turn out to be a very good egg. But anyway, I came back to London, and I was working for a catering agency, and one of the jobs they had me doing was working at one of the central post offices, cooking breakfast for such a glamorous life, cooking for the early post shift. And also I was working behind the fish counter at Waitrose. And then, that was my world. I didn't have anything to do with the creative environment.
And yet, talking to you about food, as we have done today, there is creativity even in your food. So even when we've spoken about just making a carrot soup, you're like, yes, but it needs ginger, or it needs a zing. So even with your food, you are as creative as you are now with your fabric. So this was always going to find you. Yeah,
well, my mom was an exceptional cook, and I think that comes through the bloodstream also. She's has an incredible eye, and so I think hand in hand I've inherited that from her. But for me, flavors and smells are the same as colors, and they're all psychological as well. But I cook with flavors. For me, when I'm cooking, I think about colors,
right,
as well. But
I bet every plate looks beautiful.
I'm pleased when it does. It's got to, for me, first and foremost, it's got to have the flavors.
Okay.
And so, but and it's, I open a recipe book and I'll read it, but because of maybe my dyslexia or something, I don't follow recipes. I make it up.
No, I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
I think that's perfect because I struggle to follow other people's patterns.
Yeah.
So I just make up my own patterns.
Bravo.
So I understand.
I'm from the same hymn.
Absolutely with you on that. So this is my question. How long did it take from meeting Kaif? Did you meet at a bus stop, or did I make that up?
No, that's right. We met at the West End Lane in West Hampstead at a bus stop, and because I've been working in America, I worked in America 3 years on and off, and then Kaif, being tall, and I at the bus stop got talking to him. He's American, and then he said that I asked what he did, just me being nosy. He was an artist and a designer, so curiosity kicked in because you don't meet,
No, not every day. No, you don't meet Kaif Fasid every day.
Or a designer,
No.
and about colour, and that seemed intriguing. So he said, when you're passing the studio, I live several blocks away from here. I don't have curtains. So there's a tapestry up on the wall I've just finished. And I thought, well, bugger that. I rang the doorbell.
I'm not just going to look in the window, I'm going to go in.
Yeah, I got to see what's happening in this piece of theatre. So I went in, and the place was a calamity. It was kind of like everything was out. There was a mess, and there wasn't a couch, and there was people there sitting on the floor that were knitting, and it just seemed like a den to hang out in. This is really cool. Now, London's not an easy place. It's not a really warm place.
No, it's not.
You either get in with your circle of people, or or friends, or a group situation. Well, that seemed very attractive to be there, and and it all seemed very casual, and the radio was playing, and they were all very chilled out, and I thought, yeah. So I started to go around on my days off, and I'd tidy up, anatomic order, because I had no idea what reputation Cave had. I wasn't interested in knitting. I wasn't interested in any kind of textiles, but the colour kind of got me
Drew you.
intrigued. And so, being younger and very cheeky, I would just voice my opinion and say, Cave, I think you need a little bit of that, or I don't, that isn't really kind of doing it for me, and so forth. And Cave seemed to be open to listening to what I was saying, and it gave him a little bit of thought. And on the back of that, he would say, well, here's a piece of canvas, there's an inspiration of a bird, try stitching it, or try drawing it, or you've never picked up a pencil before, here's the studio, why don't you draw what you're seeing? Because I hadn't even had a go, I just went at it. And it seemed to be, I look back now and I think, wow, look at you.
Brilliant. I love this story. It's beautiful because having been a teacher and seeing how inspiration can be flattened from children, and that element of play taken out of children, it makes me incredibly sad. So I love the fact that you maintain that, and I love the fact that you were not afraid to try, you weren't afraid to voice opinions. And Kaif has always said that's one of the things that he loves about you, is that you absolutely will challenge him on colour and all these things. And he's like, hey, hang on, who are you to? But actually, so many times you're right. And so that combination. When I asked you what your greatest achievement was, I did wonder if it was going to be that you would say sort of organising Kaif. Because that's no mean feat.
No, well, I do feel quite honoured that he sits back and just lets me organise what needs to be organised. And it's come to a pattern now that I will say in the morning or an hour before this is doing it, and he will just pick up whatever he needs to pick up, and we go off and we do it, be it theatre or a meeting or going to the airport. He doesn't really need to be interrupted. Quite often his head is in a radio play, so you won't get his attention in. I'm quite serious. That is a bit of a bone of contention, but yeah. So I have to schedule the meetings around
Radio 4.
Radio 4, basically Archers. So
the other thing was, through your introduction to Kaif and colour and everything else, what it has led to is you organise the Kaif Facet Collective, but it has allowed so much more work and travel.
Yeah.
And you are responsible for that. And that is a massive, massive kudos to you, because otherwise I'm not sure he would have been organised enough to have made the things that you have made happen.
Yeah,
and that's huge.
Yeah, it's the universe is open. We've been open to the universe and we've responded to it, and that the fact that we're doing it together, unfortunately, neither of us would do it alone, or I sometimes go out on my own and I do it on my own. It's a different experience. I love doing what I do. To me, it is profound if you can turn somebody on to just not being intimidated by or having a go. And it goes a lot deeper than that experience that you take them through. Because they can relate it to so many different levels in different ways. Do
you think if you had a standard artistic education?
To me, it would have been like putting the top on the pan. So it would have surprised me.
I really feel that.
Yeah.
So, what a lucky day that you met Kaif, and how wonderful that Kaif shares. And that you share, and that you are both incredibly generous with your knowledge and your know-how and your expertise in spreading this phenomenal talent with colour. But if you had to choose one medium to work in, what would it be?
Oh gosh, one medium to work in.
Because I've got the most exquisite scarf that you and Kate knitted me, and it's just beautiful, and the colours are divine.
Yeah, you know, they all have their different principles, and so you know, when you sit and knit and you pass yarn around the needle and you form this cobweb of colour, and you're just sitting by just using your finger, and then you can just absorb whatever it is around you. It's like you're in a meditation, or like you're in your own bubble, and it's incredibly soothing. That is one faction, but because my mind, because I'm made up the way I'm made up, I can deal with juggling plates. And, you know, so for me to sit and be still for a couple of hours is actually hard work. And so I need stimulation. So quite often, and we'll say this to people, we're usually working on about 5 projects at once. But I'm running the office, and I'm dealing with, because we're designing packaging for perfume, we're doing fashion labels, for instance, collaboration with Coach. I'll be the go-between with them. Kate didn't actually speak to them once between that whole thing. And so I kind of get off on that stimulation and variety.
You make an incredible team. That's the beauty of it, isn't it?
I'm very fortunate that Kate allows me to, and doesn't. I make, you know, of course we all make mistakes, and I'm the first to put my hand up for that. And Kate doesn't bruise me for making mistakes. You know, things happen for a reason, and they fall into another thing.
But he's a good man. He's a really good man.
It's also that he has a lot of wisdom and years behind him that's got him to where he is now. So it's a fine balance. It's a very good balance. And then you know, it's we're just very fortunate. But nothing ever stays the same.
No.
Everything changes.
That's the beauty.
And yeah, and it's but it's. Yeah, it's a funny old thing. If I were to have a medium that I can work with, I wouldn't want any of them to be taken away. I love cooking. I love putting a good meal on the table and having it enjoyed. I love putting a recipe of colour out there. I'm always amazed when I've done something. This is one of the strange things I found about myself, is that I'll do a design and then I need to put it away for a long time, and then pull it back out and have a look at it and think, oh, wow, actually, but then I never feel any claim to it. I never think, oh, that's mine, it's about me. I'm always amazed if I see something walking down the street that's mine or person, and I look at it and think, yeah.
So when you look at it, do you look at it and go, oh, I wouldn't have put it with, I wouldn't have thought to put it with that, or so that's where you're coming from, rather than, hey, doesn't that look good? I did that.
Yes.
Just hey, that's a really interesting take on that.
Yeah.
Fab.
Yeah.
That's lovely, and it's lovely because that allows your designs to be shared.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
Well, it's also I don't ever want to be called a teacher. I'm an encourager.
I describe you as an enabler.
Yeah.
That's you know, that's
So
I think that's so true, and you are incredibly generous with it. I mean, case in point, last night I FaceTimed you going, Brandon, we've got some of your fabrics here. And you know, I was kind of trying to put some things together, and I put my hand up, I went safe, and you kept a couple of the colours and then went, oh no, you need some zing, you need some pop.
Well, you know, it's like that gin and tonic. That gin and tonic needs a bit of lime.
It
does.
Or lemon. It does. So, if you could give guidelines for picking a colour. So, what we did, and we'll show this in a minute, we went with one design, one of the K Facet Collective designs, and then we picked 4 colours to go with it. Now, they are all batiks. Apart from one, they're all batiks, so they all have a depth and a density in there, which is gorgeous. So the colours didn't have to match exactly, but the depth of the colour, I think, is gorgeous, and none of the 2 colours are used in there at all. And you helped me do this on FaceTime, which is just phenomenal, whilst cooking dinner.
Yeah. I know. I had fish on the stove at potatoes in the oven. Yeah.
You're amazing.
Yeah.
You're absolutely amazing. So, would you like to show us? And if you just want to pick up one and just put it to by the sewing machine, so we can get a little close up, and then
The whole palette?
Yeah, let's do this, because I knew this needed something that way, there, and I'd picked up the pink and the peach, but I hadn't got that chocolate. Why the chocolate in there?
You know, the chocolate is kind of like adding a bit of eyeliner. You know what I'll do is, let's cover up the chocolate and take it away. If you take it away, it just gets a little calm, but a little bit of chocolate. You see in the stems, you've got these wonderful little sort of burnt red. And the chocolate in a small amount just adds what I would say as like a little bit of eyeliner. It gives it a little bit of depth.
It's beautiful. It was so right. And as soon as you put it in there, I was like, but of course.
Yeah, it just lifts the other colours. It gives them a little bit of a shadow.
But there's no way that I would ever, ever, ever have looked at that fabric and gone, what it needs is brown. I just wouldn't have.
Yeah.
So, and it's that rich, deep colour from the middle of the flowers.
Yeah, and I love the way that this kind of turquoise, deep turquoise blue brings out the lavenders in the flower here. This is a print by Philip Jacob with K Facet colours.
And there's a coral in there as well. I mean, it's just, the colouring is exquisite. The print is beautiful. It just works. So that one zings for me, and I love it.
Good.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of got a royal, kind of velvety feel about it.
It's beautiful. It is. It's, hang on, let's have another quick look at it just before we, yeah, look at that. Gorgeous, gorgeous. So that I get. Okay, I get that. Now, well, let's look at your zigzags. Whichever one you like. So this is the only one that doesn't have 4 batiks with it. Instead, what it has, and this was, you insisted on that, you said it needed a spot.
Yeah, I kind of, you know, because this is such a jazzy colorway.
Yeah.
And it's kind of got real kind of attitude and confidence. And I love the idea of throwing in this blue and green dot in with these other kind of cool, confident, assertive tones that are picked out in this zigzag. And I just think it has a, oops, which one am I going? I think it has a real kind of snappiness.
Now, the zigzag is your design.
Yes.
Do you do the colour work?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
I do.
Brilliant.
I do my own. The Kate does Philip's colours only.
Yeah.
I do my own.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
But do you do them with the knowledge of what the...
Good question. Sometimes.
What the palette's going to be?
Yeah, sometimes, but quite often I'll do my own, and somehow because I'll go in the kitchen and paint while Kate is in the studio, so we're in separate rooms.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so no, it's no, we're not really kind of marrying up, but it somehow it does seem to.
You just know.
Wow, yeah, it's very weird how that happens.
That is beautiful. Let's just take another
Yeah.
look at that. Oh, there we go. Whee. Yeah. Do you know what that?
You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to show you what that looks like without the dot. See how different that looks without the dot? You put the dot in, and it's like hello.
Yeah, and you just knew. You said to me, have you not got a spot anywhere?
Yeah.
So for a design that Keith never even wanted to do, he didn't even want to do polka dots.
Yeah, well,
Kind of glad he did.
Don't look back and sit on that one.
But then, I mean, if we're talking colourways, let's look at the next zigzag. Because your zigzag always makes me smile because, again, it's one of those things that I just think is so you. It's like you think you're going along, and then, ooh, come back. There we go. And then suddenly you put a little stop, and it's like a little joke.
This one, I think, is really delicious. I've got a lot of water in me, and it makes me think of, I was brought up by the water, I need to be by the water. And this makes me think of Monet's water lilies, that kind of aqua blues, the lavenders, the lime greens, and then these brought out in these mottled solids. I think, you know, and this is a very calm, comfortable palette.
Now, I put the pink in that, and I'm quite proud of myself for putting in a pink.
Bravo, Natasha. I mean, the pink is very nice because it's a nice, warm, rosy pink, and it picks up on these kind of dull lavender that's dotted throughout the zigzag. And you know what? If you took the pink away, the whole thing gets very cold. See?
It changes it, doesn't it?
Completely. And
Yeah.
that's like adding a bit of lipstick or a bit of rouge.
That's it, and that's the analogy I'm going to take with me. So that was, yeah, and I'm learning all the time from you guys, and that's what I absolutely love. So when I put that pink in, because I'd tried to go for purple, and I'm like, no, I need something else, and I'd look to see whether or not an orange was it, because but it clashed with the brown. I was like, ugh. We went pink.
You know, it's very important to think about adding that little bit of a pop or a zinger or what I call a lipstick color. Because, you know, if you use the equation, you know, when you put on a little bit of lipstick, it kind of,
Yeah.
you know, before you're going to go down to the corner shop, you don't cover your whole face in the lipstick.
No.
Well, you might do, but don't tell anybody. Sometimes you have to do those things. You know, this is only using a small amount.
So where would we use that? A bit of binding? Bit of
You could use it as a binding. You know, if I used a big blob of it, it's too strong. A small amount of it, just, you know, it just kind of just pops it up. If you're not comfortable with the way it sits next to that lime green.
Oh, I love it with the lime green.
Put the lime green there and put it between the two blues and swap those around and see how that colour shift, if that pleases you a little bit more.
It's all so beautiful, and you can spend hours just playing with it. But
Yeah.
I wanted people to have stash. I wanted to have colours that I wouldn't have necessarily. I would have played it safe and just found colours that were in there. And doesn't that nice? Doesn't that go because they're in there? Whereas actually it just camouflages.
Okay, so here's my take on using a fabric. If I paid good money for this fabric and I put good money for another fabric and I put it together and then I sew them together and I stand back from it and they look like one. I'm like, what? I just paid a lot of money for this fabric, and that you got to make sure. I want both those fabrics to be fabulous, but not kind of kill one another.
Yeah.
Also not dampen it down so it looks like paper mache. Otherwise, just sew with one piece of fabric. You know, I'll try and be happy for you, but.
Yeah. But it'll be grudgingly.
Yeah, but you know, life is too short. I mean, you're not out there to scare the horses. It's just making it just. You know, it's like when you add the ginger to the carrot soup. You just want to give it a little bit of pop,
Yeah,
but you don't want to be
heat.
so your tongue is hanging out.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yes, and that's what I'm going to have to take, because I want to be braver with colour. You're right. You've told me off for wearing too much grey.
Beige.
It's fine. Brandon's sent to take me shopping when lockdown is over. So when I suddenly become bright, you'll know. You'll know I've been Brandon.
Wait.
I'm very excited. Go on then.
Talk about this one.
Yes, let's talk about that one.
To me, I keep on looking at this and thinking it looks like wonderful Art Nouveau kind of colours or stained glass windows. It's kind of a lovely.
I see Brighton candy floss. Sticks of rock.
Six rock? Oh,
Yeah.
funny. Is that because the pattern in the
I
flowers?
think so, and because of the colours, because of those sweet colours that are in there as well.
Well, yeah. There's a kind of a clearness, a kind of crispness. You know, those wonderful kind of tulips.
Yes.
Or you know, look at how they look with these flowers.
Oh, hello. I've switched it all around. Hang on. Let me go back. There we go. Think there.
You see. And again, it's again with this pink, that lovely little bit of pink that if I took that pink out, kind of.
It needs that warmth, doesn't it, from
Yeah.
the pink? Yeah. Do you want to
but-
pop them by the sewing machine and we'll get a nice little close up
Right.
of those? Sorry, look, you're doing a grand job there, by the way. I'm just sitting down, chilling out. To you. There. we
Now
go.
we're missing the pink, so you can see it without the pink, and then when you bring the pink in, it just adds a little bit of glow.
So
And then what I brought in this cool denim blue because what I think is significant about these flowers is you have some darker accents in there.
Yes.
And it just gives the whole thing a little bit more. That's without the darker blue.
Yeah, it looks too sweet.
And then when you put that in, it
Grounds it.
grounds it. It does. It gives it a bit of grout.
Lovely.
Mm.
This is what, so we need the highlights, that lighter tone. You need something that's going to ground it and something that's going to give it warmth.
Yeah, you want to, you know, with a colour palette, you always want to give it something that's a little bit cooler and something that's like a little bit of a shadow to push the other colours forward. Otherwise, if they're all too much the same tone or strength of colour, they can just look like dead leaves or paper mache or, you know, blur. I've got this. This is darker, kind of.
This is the darkest out of all of them, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's really got a kind of a wonderful kind of velvety depth to it.
We need you. There we go. There.
Now, you can see I've embraced these wonderful kind of pruny, rich royal purples by bringing in these other accents and noticing this wonderful burnt red.
Had to be in there.
That adds in a little bit of warm chocolate, that beautiful dark chocolate kind of note, cocoa. You see, if I take this away, it gets so much colder.
No, you're right.
But if I bring in a little bit of that tone in there, it just adds a little, it just sort of turns on the light with these.
Do you find you do this instinctively, or is this...
It's like building a muscle. The more that you start using colour, the more you start becoming, you get a feeling of what works and what doesn't. So it's not a theoretical feeling. It's about, it needs a bit of, it's a feeling. It's a gut reaction that comes from here. It's not from my tiny brain. And we're going to talk about this one because I think this is what I call the Natasha palette. Because I think these big Whamapaloozas should...
Big what?
No, but these Whamapaloozas, I have no idea where that word comes from. I bet it's not even in the dictionary.
I don't know, but I'm going to go with it. These big old Whamapaloozas where...
Oh dear! Shall I get under the table?
I'm using that. That's going to be my newfound favourite word. Don't ask me to spell it.
Anyway, when I look at this palette, I think of you. I think it's so optimistic. It's kind of a buoyant. It's a kind of a clean, healthy feel about the colours. Now, when Cave did this colourway on Philip's fabric, and he put in that orange, I just thought that was just genius.
It is genius. It's what makes it.
It is so unpredictable because, you know...
Do you want to unfold that so we can...
Yeah, if you didn't have the orange in the centre of those flowers, it just... bashing my microphone. It just becomes... I'm going to cover up those little bits of orange there. It just becomes a kind of a greenish fabric.
Yeah.
But that orange is just... It gives that unexpected magic. What it does to the blues in with these mossy greens.
Purple in there as well. There's a very, very, very light lilac in there.
So, you know, picking... These are two quite obvious colours to go with this. And then looking at the little highlights on the leaves here, you're allowed to bring in something along those notes. Now, there's one big colour that you're missing out.
Yeah,
that
it
you're
had
kind
to
of
be.
completely ignoring. And it's that wonderful little bit of ginger orange.
And there it is.
And it just lifts it. And that's your Natasha palette.
Yeah. And I've loved that.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah, it just, I don't know, it just gives me joy. It makes me feel there's a wonderful kind of, you know, it's not kind of dancing from the rooftop colours. It just has a wonderful kind of open sort of...
No, I think it's absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. So this is, this is Brandon's colour bonanza. That's what I think of this one.
Natasha's wonderful. I'm fired.
I love that. I'm happy with that. No, Brandon, would you say, because you have travelled before you met Kaif, and since working with Kaif, you've travelled all over the world.
Yeah.
And is there a favourite place for, I mean, you've been to Australia, India, you've been in the Caribbean. I mean, you've so well travelled with all of this. Is there one place that sticks in your mind as being somewhere that has influenced you more than any other?
I love third world countries. I love Morocco. I love South Africa. I enjoyed Zimbabwe. Everywhere feeds me. I love the optimism of America. As long as I don't turn the television on, and get involved with the politics.
But there's so much more to a country than its politics, isn't there?
Yes.
There's the landscapes, there's the warmth, there's the people.
Japan is unbelievable, and it's also the contrast between how formal it is and those who, because they only live in smaller quarters than we do, they make smaller things. They spend a lot more time doing finer work, and their work is exceptional bar none. Korea is amazing. We were just in Cuba. I mean, we were
You were, hang on, were you not in a big pink Cadillac in Cuba?
Yeah, we were in a Cadillac, and it just happened to be the right color too. I mean, yeah.
Discreet. I mean, no one's going to look twice at that,
yeah,
right?
I mean,
no.
So, but no, it's we're very fortunate. The world has invited us out to play, and we've been able to go out.
You've answered that calling.
We've answered that calling, and long may it continue, because it's and it's not like we're going out on vacation. We're going out. We're sharing what we're about and getting people to. It's just all about having to go, not being afraid, and we do 1 or 2 books a year, and so that also adds to people's collections. I think our latest count, there's 60 books.
Wow.
60 books. They've
Now
got,
that's needlepoint, that's quilting, that's all kinds,
yes.
isn't it?
Yeah, and that's they mean that most of them have got all of those have Kaif's name on it, but I've coordinated.
Oh, they wouldn't have happened without you.
Yeah, 3/4 of those, and then I've got 3 books under my own name, but it's.
And what are your books about? What's
3 of them were on knitwear.
Fabulous.
Using colour in knitwear.
So is knitwear a big love of yours now? From walking into that house and seeing these guys sitting on the floor knitting, thinking, what's going on here?
Is it a big love? It's more of a struggle because of the companies that we design for. The companies change, and also you're having to design for what they're trying to
a brief.
To a brief.
Yeah.
Whereas with the patchwork, we are controlling that. So we are creating the trend. With the patchwork, with the knitting world, we're actually feeding designs to work with the yarns that they're producing.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different bag. It's a good challenge, and I absolutely love it. I mean, I love it bar none, but it's a completely different beast. And then the needlepoint, one of the highlights for me working with Kaif is that we were asked to go into high security prisons and work with lifers that are allowed to do needlepoint while they're in their cells. And they, for those that were at a certain behaviour level, we went into a glass house in the middle of the wing, the lifers wing, when they were all out for their hour out of the day, and we were in the glass house with 12 guys doing needlepoint.
Wow.
And that was profound because these guys had done the worst that you could possibly do.
Yeah.
They were in for life.
Yeah.
But when they're in their cells, they're allowed to stitch needlepoint. And Keith is a patron of a charity called Fine Cell Work. And the charity sells the guys needlepoint, and they get part of the money back to buy things that they need, and the rest of the money goes to charity.
Oh wow, that's phenomenal.
So that's one of the biggest highlights we've had. And we've done that in 3 prisons in the UK.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, and to see, I mean, there was like, Keith done a portrait of a bulldog, and one of the guys was saying to his inmate, God, I'd love to do that bulldog, but it's going to take me a lifetime. And the other one said, what are you on about? That's what you got. And it was like, you just drop, you know, and yeah.
It's funny and not all in one go.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it?
So, anyway, so you know how wonderful that we've been able to touch worlds like that.
Take some colour in there too. It's just phenomenal.
And you know, and that also it's that they're not doing our designs; they're doing their own designs.
Fantastic.
So the charity gets them to draw, sharing inspiration with them, gets them to draw out, and they stitch the colours they want to put in, and then that goes into a magazine or a website.
That's phenomenal.
It is, and now they're doing patchwork as well.
Wow.
So I actually own the first patchwork that Two Lives has been. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, that's a precious piece.
It is. It's a herringbone design, and it is beauty.
So here's the thing. When you started to do patchwork, and you came to patchwork, and you and Keith researched the fabrics, you didn't find what you were looking for.
No, in the early days, we were kind of looking more at finishing fabrics.
Yeah, because they had the bigger designs.
There you go, and it was the scale also. The scale was bigger, but the weight was a bit of a problem. But you know what? We weren't really bothered about mixing different weights. If the colour did it, if it was beautiful brocade, or it had a velvet touch, or it was a big chintz,
which would have traditionally have been what patchwork would have been.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you've suddenly brought in another aspect in terms of touch.
That's right. And then Rowan Yarns, who do our knit yarns, they eventually partnered up with an American company that said, well, let's just put a toe in the water and start doing some fabrics. And that's how we started doing the Indian woven fabrics in India. Where so we turned around to Rowan and said, well, Oxfam have had us go to India, and they didn't know what to do with the fabrics we designed. But one of the fabrics, Johnny Depp wore the fabric in the shirt he wore right throughout Chocolat, a film.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so that was so we got one sale out of that. But
thanks, Johnny.
Thanks, Johnny, my mate, not. And then so we said, well, could you take these fabrics and try those? And so on the cusp of that, they said, well, we need you to do prints that we can print on fabric to go with these stripes. And if we're going to put money into it, get the snowball rolling. And this is how it all started taking off. And then Keith looked at Rowan as it was then and saw the principle of how Rowan became the incredible success it was. And that was because although they used to produce beautiful yarn, they used to do the most gorgeous collectible item books. And this is where they built their reputation, was by producing these sumptuous books. And so Keith said, okay, I'll do these prints and stripes, but you've got to allow me to do a book.
Amazing. And was that how the first quilting books came about?
Yeah, that's how the first ones came about.
Wow.
And so we have the absolute honour and privilege of having a fairy godmother called Liza Pryor Lucy.
Yes, you do.
And nobody can ever buy or find a Liza. Liza is where we are now and why we are who we are, because
she's one of the reasons.
Well, you know, we're a team. We're a team.
You are a team, and also part of that ingredient list is Debbie Patterson as well.
Yeah, well, Debbie Patterson.
She came on later. I know she came in later, but
Well, Debbie Patterson has been, the reason why we've stuck with Debbie Patterson being our photographer,
Yes.
and she's the only one that we work with on our books, is nobody gets to see what the photo shoots are like. We're like two boxing kangaroos. So there's Keith and I styling, and the fur is flying, their hair is, listen, this is why I have no hair. and the screams and the shouts and tantrums, I usually win. But Debbie's got 3 boys, and actually she's got 4 boys, and that includes her husband. And that's why she can cope with Keith and I on a photo shoot. And
now, the first time though that you worked with Debbie, because she used to do photography for food, didn't she? So, so she understood the colour, and that was what drew Keith to choose her. But Keith was a little bit stressed, I think he would admit to, on the first one, and thought that you and Debbie were having far too much fun.
Well,
and she couldn't possibly have got the shots that were needed.
This is what I was saying about this is what I was saying with Debbie, is that she and I have the same sense of humour. It's unfortunate we'll often be Keith would be like, and we would be like behind but we
giggling.
But that's we are a team. So the Keith Collective, although it has Keith, myself, and Philip's name on it, it really is. Also includes Liza Pry-Lucy and Debbie Patterson.
So Liza is also, I would give her credit for nudging and nudging and nudging to get you to patchwork.
Yes, Debbie. Liza's like once you get a bone between her teeth, you cannot pull that bone up. So and she, nobody can make Keith laugh like Liza can. Liza can make Keith howl, and he loves Liza so much for it. And she's also, she gets right to the quick. And so she basically watches the business side of who we are as an American front, because we're primarily designing for an American company. They're based in Charlotte, North Carolina. So she deals with the team over there as the American sensibility, and then she will come through to us and say, guys, you need to do this. And we'll say, okay, mama. And,
do as you're told.
Do as you're told, mama.
Do as you're told.
Yeah.
So this, oh gosh, this must be, have you worked with her since the 80s? I mean, is that?
No, 90, I joined with Keith in 1990. So Debbie would have come on board maybe 92.
So she just missed the 80s and came in then. Wow.
Yeah. So
and she had a Keith quilt, didn't she?
No, I don't.
What?
I'm not.
No. A Keith painting.
Well, for her, no, we were new to her when the publisher introduced us to her, and so she didn't. But she has a Keith painting now. So
whether she wants one or not, she's got one.
Yes, and then it's also, I should also mention, a lot of people are curious about how much do we actually sew. Well, because we have so many other things going on, and what really, one of the things that we learned is that we need to put our attention where it's best used, and that is putting together the arrangements of colour. So we have our design wall, and we cut and arrange our fabric. We do our creativity by creating the fabric. We cut it up, we put it up, and then the actual sewing side and the boring part of writing instructions is done by somebody else. Yeah. And that we are so grateful for. And we have 3 ladies in the UK that does part of that team. And the one is it's got a lady called Janet Haig, who's down in Bristol, with Ilaria and another lady called Julie. And they basically do our sewing and the writing of our instructions following the arrangements that we've done. And honestly, those girls have angel wings as far as I'm concerned, and they're unsung heroes because people don't hear about them, say about them, and so
it is when you get down to the nitty and gritty, and this is why I wanted to talk to you, because there is so much more to everything that goes on, and this is what you are juggling, and it is a juggle. I understand the juggle is real, and it takes a special person to be able to manage all of those balls in the air. It's quite.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
But it's a
yeah.
skill set. It is. Not everyone can do it.
Well, I have. I've been with Keith a long time, and so I've learnt the process on how he will speak with people, on how they will receive it, or where I'm better going in and so forth. And we've built a pattern, and and
It works.
how they respect and see. And I mean, Keith and I, we do a tango. We do a two-man act now, but it's built up a lot to get to that. And I'm very fortunate that he wants me to walk that path with him, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's the teamwork,
But
isn't it? That's the teamwork.
another one of my mottos is nothing is ever one-sided, ever.
No, it's
So-
very, very true. It's it's those unsung heroes as well, which
Yeah.
help make everything happen.
Yeah.
So, is there such thing as a typical day in the Mably Facet household?
Well, yeah, it kind of. We have for this year, for the first time that I've known the 30 years that I've been at the studio, we have an empty diary.
Yeah, because everything's cancelled.
Everything's cancelled. So Keith had, we would have been flying to San Francisco today.
Yeah.
We were opening
goodness you're not.
a museum show next week.
Wow.
At the Montreal Museum. We had workshops scheduled at Lady So-and-so in Henley, workshop scheduled in Ireland. We had a 6-week book tour, Festival of Quilts cancelled in NEC. We 6-week workshop tour, touring all 12 cities in the US.
Wow.
That's been cancelled.
So what are you doing instead?
Oh my God, it's so
Apart from
fantastic.
Natasha makes,
It is,
obviously.
yeah. It is so fantastic because we don't have those diary interruptions.
Yeah.
I mean, the 2 diary interruptions I have. Oh, actually, the 1 diary interruption I have, and that's when I can get it, is Ocado.
Oh.
I mean, it's like I won a lottery ticket when I can actually get my food delivery.
My mum is setting her alarm and waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh.
Bless her heart, to put in her order.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
that's the reality
it's mean,
for her.
It's mean.
Yeah.
Literally, I wake. Keith is an early bird,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm early. I mean, 7:30 is when I'm usually up and in the shower. If you want to think about me around that time, don't. But as soon as I wake up, I'm not somebody that can lie in bed. So
Your brain's already thinking, isn't
my
it?
brain is thinking about what fortunate things that I have that need doing first and foremost, and then I will spend into the day, and so it will be. Got to get my accounts out of the way. I'm working on a knit along project for Rowan Yarns. I'm doing a patchwork. We're doing 3 patchwork quilts. I went into. I need to make small room in the studio, and so I had to say to Keith, "Okay, you got to help me clear out here." So I took him into the room, which is full, floor to ceiling, in tubs full of old knitted swatches that he's done, because we archive everything.
Yeah.
And asked him if I can throw anything out. I think I got 6 pieces from him, and then since then he's literally pulled out tub after tub, and he's been sewn together, crocheting together all different swatches, knitted swatches, and making these incredible blankets of colour stories, and
Amazing.
they're breathtaking.
Amazing. And of course, it must be being reunited with old friends.
They are breathtaking. It is just really amazing. And so we've taken a couple of hours a day because the weather's been so divine, and we have a garden that go down and try and turn off or read or write in the diary. So our routine hasn't changed that much. If anything, it's given us a little bit more time to ourselves.
Yeah, yeah.
And then mandatory, we take an exercise every day, but also we do Pilates online classes, and we've also been doing a diet twice a week. So that's really helped us get through our...
Yeah, you were saying that's helped you structure the week, because otherwise you wouldn't know what day of the week it was. But to have, because you do 5-2, don't you?
Yeah.
So having those 2 days.
Yeah, it really is.
And you look amazing on it, so it's obviously suiting.
And it's I think we'll keep it up, and it's given us a kind of a little bit of a clarity. It's kind of clear on the blackboard.
Yeah.
So it's making room to edit and write and look at these.
Well, I knew you wouldn't be sitting there getting bored, twiddling your thumbs. My grandma always used to say that only boring people get bored.
Yeah, no.
So it's...
I don't think we even know how to spell the word. It just... there's... Oh my God, there's so much to do. And the thing is, when you move one thing, or you change one thing, it makes room for something else to come in.
And it ricochets and creates other things,
Absolutely.
doesn't it?
Yeah, and an idea comes from it. But that comes back to why you need a big stash.
It's true, isn't it? Because otherwise you're going to be constantly searching for. In your stash, is it mainly K fabrics, or do you have another favourite designer that you allow in?
Well, we're always working a year ahead. So
Okay.
what we're doing now is we're designing for... so we'll go back. This time last year, we were photographing quilts in Burano. In Italy, which we designed those quilts year back. So now we're designing quilts that will come up for our book that will come out this time next year.
I'm still waiting for the quilts in Birmingham, inspired by the graffiti.
Oh yeah, well, yes, I know.
There's some quite stunning graffiti in Birmingham. Quite
maybe a photo location.
Yeah.
So we're using a stash. We would like to use other people's fabrics, but we have to, on the studio wall, we have to kind of clear out what's also been dropped, because anything that isn't selling within the shops, that might still be in the shops, but we can't use it because we're working a year ahead.
Of course.
So it's quite an editing job.
Gosh, that's huge to think. I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah.
It's huge, and we have a room
and
at the top of the house.
is that another thing that falls to you?
No, well, no. We have the fantastic help of a wonderful assistant by the name of Bundle.
Is that a real name?
That is Bundle's name. Can you imagine? Part of the reason why I hired her. And yeah, she's...
so that CV drops on your mat.
She's a transplant from Australia, but she's only on loan for about another year, and then she goes back to Australia.
Oh no!
I know. So I don't know what I'm going to do.
Where are you going to find another bundle of joy?
I'm going to have to find another bundle of joy. Anyway, but everything changes, and so that's one of the things I've learned about life. You can't just hold on to... I think you know that one, don't you, Natasha?
Yeah.
But Bundle, that's something that Bundle loves doing. She loves archiving, cataloguing, and she's doing our huge database, because...
That's amazing. So that will always remain then, won't it? That's really important.
Yeah, that's very important, because eventually Cave's home will become a study house museum.
Wow,
and
will
so,
it really?
Yeah, and so everything that's in the house will stay as is, and will be able to be shared and admired and lent out, and and so forth. So
oh my goodness,
that's
huge.
that's what Cave has made arrangements for, is that the house will become a museum.
Wow. Oh, Brandon,
that's what we're building towards. Yeah,
that's incredible. So that is legacy. That is
legacy.
Serious legacy for all of you. That's amazing. Brandon, you are the kindest, sweetest man. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us and giving us the insight behind this mammoth colour extravaganza that we see, we love, and we enjoy. And so thank you for all that you do to enable all of this, and for your stunning designs and your fun and your energy. Thank you.
Well, I'm just grateful I can be me.
Well, don't be anything but. Please.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I want other people to be. Is not under a little paper bag.
No.
Here's some flour.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Look at that sun. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Big hug to you.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Take care. Safe journey.